Brad trembled slightly all over during class. He bit down hard on his pencil, trying to hold it in. But in the end, he failed. Brad's odd yelps drew laughter from his classmates. Even the teacher couldn't stand it, calling him up to the front of the class to declare she knew Brad was just playing the clown, and she'd had enough of his antics, though Brad insisted he couldn't control himself. The teacher didn't believe him. The worst part was that she made him publicly apologize for his outbursts and promise not to disrupt the class again. Helpless, Brad couldn't disobey the teacher's order.
Promise I won't make any more silly noises ever again.
But as soon as he returned to his seat, the yelps came back. However, this behavior wasn't something he faked. The symptoms started appearing when Brad was 6, leading to relentless mockery and exclusion from his peers, and rejection by teachers who labeled him a classroom disruption. Brad's mother sought medical help, but resources were limited, and doctors couldn't identify the cause, let alone a cure. Some even suggested exorcism. No one understood Brad's plight, not even his father, who sometimes lashed out at him.
She said, I said, stop it! Just stop it!
Brad, who couldn't hold back his yelps, managed to hold back his tears. He silently listened as his father introduced his stepmother, watched as his father hugged his younger brother but not him. So, he cautiously initiated a hug himself, to which his father only responded by patting his head before leaving. On the other side, the school couldn't tolerate Brad's behavior and called his mother in, advising her to withdraw him. During the conversation with the principal, Brad repeatedly emphasized that he couldn't control his actions, but no one except his mother believed him. Finally, his mother decided to leave the school with Brad without further argument. His mother became his last pillar of support, diligently researching medical books for a glimmer of hope. Eventually, she came across a book mentioning Tourette's syndrome. Armed with this new information, she sought help from doctors again. This time, the doctor admitted his lack of knowledge, but confirmed that there was no cure for Tourette's syndrome. Brad's mother felt a wave of despair, but held her beloved son tightly, vowing never to give up. She found a support group for people with the condition, hoping to find a ray of hope. Upon joining, she realized that members exhibited various symptoms, like constant foot stomping, coughing, and neck-jerking, all manifestations of Tourette's syndrome. Although she hoped Brad could learn from their experiences, she found the group mainly complained about societal unfairness and encouraged hiding at home. Some even suggested that it was easier to lock Brad away at home. Hearing this, Brad's mother immediately left with him, as she wanted him to live a normal life, not just wallow in self-pity. Brad assured her he would never be like those who let Tourette's syndrome defeat them.
I don't want to forget this, Mom. These people let Tourette's win. I'm never gonna do that.
Seeing her son's resilience, his mother felt a deep pain in her heart. Brad should have been a cherished child at his age, but fate had other plans. She found him a new school, but Brad still faced bullying and mockery from classmates. Teachers would make him face away during lessons, but his yelps continued to provoke laughter, leading him back to the principal's office. When the principal asked what schools were for, Brad reflexively apologized repeatedly.
I'm sorry I keep disrupting the
You're
class.
not answering my question.
But the principal wasn't interested in his apologies, continuing to ask what schools were for. This was the first time Brad encountered someone other than his mother and brother speaking to him so gently. Son, the principal arranged for him to attend a concert. Brad, hesitant and inexperienced, unintentionally disrupted the event with his yelps, drawing stares from the audience. Embarrassed, Brad didn't understand why the seemingly kind principal put him in such a situation. After the concert, the principal called him on stage. Brad, too ashamed to look up, listened as the principal asked if he made those sounds on purpose. Brad explained that he didn't want to make the sounds any more than others, wanted to hear them but couldn't help it. The principal then asked, "How can we help him? I mean everyone in this school." Brad was taken aback, never having had anyone want to help him before. He finally said he just wanted to be treated like everyone else. "Good," said the principal. The audience, no longer mocking, listened in silence. As Brad walked off the stage, his classmates began to applaud, one by one, until the whole hall was clapping for him. The principal said that education is about using knowledge to defeat ignorance. These few words, bit by bit, seemed to open a new world for Brad, one he had never stepped into before. Years passed, and Brad grew up with Tourette syndrome still a part of his life. But thanks to that principle, he managed to live as normally as possible. Brad dreamed of becoming a teacher like the principal, who had made such a difference. Yet, after numerous interviews, he was consistently rejected due to his uncontrollable yelping. Despite understanding his condition, schools couldn't accept him as a teacher. Some interviewers even insulted him to his face, leaving Brad devastated. Returning to his car, the angrier he got, the worse his symptoms became. For many years, Brad had tried hard to suppress his barking, but it always emerged like a taunt. Angrily, he pounded on the car, hating his body and even contemplating strangling himself. This time, he cried alone in the car for a long time, but this still couldn't defeat Brad, because behind him was his supportive mother. "Are you letting Tourette's win?" "I'm not letting Tourette's win." "Really?" "Yes, really. Look, I'm never going to give up. I just have to find the right school." You will. Encouraged, Brad pulled out a map and expanded the range of schools he was applying to. Trying more places, there would always be a school suitable for him. But as the start of the school year approached, to make ends meet, he sought out his father. His father offered to give him some money, but Brad insisted that he still wanted to be a teacher and refused his father's charity. So he took up part-time work on a construction site. Despite the new school year starting, no school responded to his emails. At home, dirty dishes piled up, reflecting his chaotic state of mind. But one day, his stepmother visited and patiently advised him. After seeing his mess, she told him that his father didn't love him any less. The construction work was just his last resort. His father's cowardice made him run away. Brad said the most hurtful thing about his father was that he never accepted that Brad was different from others. But he indeed was different, his stepmother replied. Maybe that's just your perception. Yes, you are different, but in teaching, you have a real talent. It's not because you've overcome Tourette's, but because the illness has made you unique. These words from his stepmother, who wasn't even related by blood, stunned Brad and helped him reconcile with himself. With renewed confidence, Brad sent out more resumes, waiting at home for a call. Finally, one day, he received an invitation from a school. During the interview, the teachers were kind and didn't mention his illness at all, instead discussing his educational philosophy for 2 hours. He had never experienced such a great interview, but he still didn't have high hopes. His brother came to visit him, and they planned to play golf but were turned away by the management, fearing they would disturb other members. While his brother was very angry, Brad didn't say anything and left with him. His brother's visit brought warmth to Brad's world. To his mother and brother, he was always normal. After his brother left, Brad was called to the school. The principal informed him that he had been officially hired. Go on a 1-year contract to see how he performed, but getting this opportunity was enough to make Brad immensely happy. The school was full of young children and friendly, enthusiastic teachers. Brad did his best in his role. And with joy, he called his mother to tell her about his job. His mother was thrilled and urged him to find a girlfriend. Encouraged, Brad started browsing dating websites and soon met a girl named Nancy. They hit it off on their first date, laughing the whole time. Nancy didn't mind his barking and even planned another meeting. As the new teacher, Brad's classroom was soon set up. In his first lesson, he explained his illness to the children and encouraged them to ask any questions. In the children's world, there was no mockery or disdain. They asked if his illness was contagious. No, absolutely not. Someone asked if he could go to the movies. Brad smiled and said he could, but sometimes he got kicked out. He said he could do anything a normal person could do, except play hide and seek. The students burst into laughter. Brad's classroom was always filled with joy, and everyone loved their teacher, who always made funny noises. His love life also progressed rapidly. He and Nancy often went on dates in the woods, enjoying the sunlight filtering through the leaves and playing with ducks in the park. He joked that all ducks had Tourette's syndrome. They chatted in a quiet pavilion, and Nancy said she liked how he always made her laugh, suggesting she might marry someone who made her laugh. Their feelings flowed naturally, like a gentle stream, making them blush in the summer heat. Brad's class became very popular among the children, but not all parents felt the same. One girl's father insisted on transferring her to another class. even though she loved Brad's lessons and sometimes watched secretly from the door. Brad felt helpless, not wanting to cause trouble for the children. There was also a little troublemaker in his class. Other teachers warned Brad not to bother with him, as he was disruptive and had poor attention and learning skills. But Brad saw his younger self in the boy and brought him books to read together, pretending to have Tourette's to show the boy what it's like to struggle with attention. He told the boy that his illness made reading very difficult for him, helping the boy realize his own difficulties were easier by comparison. Gradually, Brad helped the boy find confidence. Brad noticed every child in his class. One girl named Heather was very cheerful, but through her mother, Brad learned she was undergoing chemotherapy and wanted to keep it a secret. Brad asked if Heather would be okay, but her mother only said that Heather loved Brad's classes and looked forward to school every day. Saying goodbye to Heather left Brad with a deep sadness. Watching Heather and her mother reminded Brad of himself and his mother. On Thanksgiving, Brad took Nancy to meet his mother. His family welcomed Nancy warmly, but Brad still felt anxious, fearing he might one day tire Nancy with his illness. His mother reassured him that the only thing that could change their relationship was never to fear Tourette's syndrome, but to courageously overcome it. In the small hallway filled with love, Brad finally mustered the courage to say, "I love you." After Thanksgiving, Heather was no longer able to attend school. Brad encouraged his class to send her colorful paper cutouts and cards. But soon, the sad news of her passing arrived. At her funeral, Brad greeted Heather's classmates but didn't go inside, fearing his barking would disturb the service.
Mr. Cohen? Aren't you coming in?
Heather's mother reassured him, saying he had made a huge difference in Heather's life and that she wanted Brad to be there. With tears in his eyes, Brad entered the church, where Heather's father thanked him for being there. No one at the funeral minded his barking, knowing Brad had been a source of light for Heather in her final days. He was a truly good teacher. At a family gathering, Brad's father also came. They chatted while barbecuing in the yard, and his father finally apologized for his cowardice, admitting he was afraid that maybe he had caused Brad's condition. Seeing others look at Brad differently always made him feel helpless. He had spent his life fixing things, but the one thing he couldn't fix was the hurt in Brad's heart. Brad said it couldn't be fixed, but it could be covered with love. Meanwhile, many bookshelves at the school were broken. Brad's father, upon learning this, immediately brought workers to fix them. Over the years, his father had been trying, and Brad had been accepting. Brad would tell his students, "Hey, class, that's my dad. Mr. Molly." Later, a school observer came, and the principal congratulated Brad. He was named Teacher of the Year in the state. With all the students cheering and applauding, inside, Brad felt the same joy as the children. Because in their world, there was only "I will do" and not "I can do." At the awards ceremony, Brad faced his illness directly, saying Tourette's syndrome was his true teacher. The children raised their hands one by one, asking what he had learned from it. Some thought it was perseverance, others thought it was optimism, but Brad said the most valuable lesson he learned was never to let anything stop you from pursuing your dreams, whether in work, play, or love. Front of the Class is a movie based on a true story. Brad and Nancy got married in 2006, and through his efforts, Brad earned a master's degree, achieving success in both career and love. Despite his physical illness, he was fortunate not to hide in a corner like other patients. No two snowflakes are the same, but piled together, everyone is a small figure, so there is no such thing as strange or different. In this smoke-free war, there was an important person, Brad's mother, who did what a mother should do: pass on optimism and courage to her son. No one's life path is straight. Having the courage to endure any hardship makes one more lovable than anyone else. Prejudice is like a mountain, heavy, but it is just a mountain, and you have to believe that you will climb over it. I hope today's film gives you something to think about. See you in the next video.